All right. Well, welcome on. Or actually, it's your house, isn't it? It's your bar.
Welcome, Peter, to my place. How are you doing?
Thanks. Yeah, good to see you in Austin, Texas. We're recording this a couple of days after Data Day Texas. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a hell of a conference, hasn't it?
It has been.
And really a touching farewell to what's been 15 years of a massive community contribution from Lynn Bender and everyone else that's been involved in it. So
it has been. It's really cool to see how this thing has evolved and actually kind of be part of it for so long.
Because you've been part of this conference.
I think I've been going for over 10 years. I don't even remember what was the first time. So
yeah.
And I think Lynn helped organize the first semantic web meetup that I was thinking about back in 2008.
Yeah.
Here in Austin. So
I know we were going to talk about ontologies, knowledge graphs, all of your subject matter expertise. But firstly, I just wanted to ask, what's been the impact of Data Day Texas on you personally and your career over this last decade?
So this is something that Lynn has always pushed, and I've actually took it to heart. Is like whenever people give a talk at Data Day Texas, he wants it to be a talk that nobody has seen before.
Yeah,
and it's a place where people go there are known, and then you can find their talks on YouTube and stuff. And it's like, why would I go see a talk that I've already seen and it's already on YouTube? So he wants it, and that's why it's also like in January to start.
Yeah.
So every year I'm always thinking about what is the new message I have for the year, and it's my forcing function to think I need to have something ready by the beginning of the year. And actually, doesn't mean it's super polished because I get it out and I start testing it. So you'll see. I mean, the talks that I've given at Sydney, those all started here. They've evolved over the time, and then the talk I gave this year was 20 years of lessons learned of building knowledge graphs and ontologies. And I think I told Lynn, I was like, so what do you want to talk about? It's like, I don't know. There's always something, but now everybody's an ontology expert. I was kind of getting really ranty, annoying with that. He's like, well, there's your topic. And he just wants to talk, people talk about things that people are passionate about. It's just, that's what comes out the best.
So you talk about the scar tissue with relation to that. What's the biggest scar, and what would you do differently over those past 20 years?
Man, this is such a hard question because I don't know if there is one. But if I were to group things into a single kind of category, I think it's realizing that we've always constantly lived in this, what I call this data first world.
Yep.
And then we need to have a paradigm shift. So this encompasses a couple of things that I brought up. So in the shift is to what I'd call the knowledge first world. So for example, one of the lessons learned was understand the distinction between an application centric and a data centric or data knowledge centric, where an application centric is that the data exists to support the application. But the applications come and go. So if you're building all this stuff for the application and then say later on someone needs to consume that data because they need to integrate with some other data from another application, that's where the root of the problem is. And something that's connected to that then is, for example, is identity. Because I always say that integrating data is so hard because we have to do all these things after the fact. And one of the things that's after the fact is identity, is understanding that this person over here is the same person over here. But also that this concept over here is the same as this concept over here. So we start treating identity as a first-class citizen. That's a way I can start, I can point to things and I can relate identifiers and pointers. So overall, I think that's kind of the biggest one. And it's something that it's not natural because for us to think about applications first, it's all about moving fast. So then ties to another thing, it's the incentives. So you're incentivized to move fast and do things really quickly, and you're not thinking about what are the repercussions, the technical depth that I'm generating. So long story short, for me, it's really understanding that you are coming from this application-centric world where all I think is I'm just doing data for applications, where you really need to start thinking about a knowledge-first world.
So knowledge graphs were supposed to be the foundation for enterprise AI, but many implementations fail. What separates success from failure?
So it's, specifically, I would say that it's understanding that you are making an investment in knowledge graphs to deal with the known use cases of today, but also for the unknown use cases of tomorrow. So where you are then realizing that you're incentivizing for reusability, and that's kind of where interoperability comes in. That's what's going to separate, because if you do not if you're not thinking about that, then you are only thinking about building an application, and you're going to use knowledge graphs and just graphs in general for that application. And then people will say, well, that's too complicated. I didn't need that. I can do that this way. I'm like, that's probably true if all you're thinking is about that application. So if I see knowledge graph kind of projects go wrong, is because they're not thinking about it in the long term. And then the other problem is that they only think about it in the long term, so they end up boiling the ocean and doing things that take too long and not showing value. So there is this balance that you need to go find. So that's my answer.
Yeah, I've been saying show me the ontology for years. With LLMs generating text from unstructured data, is formal ontology still necessary?
It definitely is, and I think, and the reason is because the call it the formal ontology, like that is where you're actually kind of bringing in the real context from people. At the end of the day, an organization, a company, it's a human endeavor.
Yep.
Right? Humans come together because they have an interest, they have a shared goal, and they want to accomplish something, right? And that means that they're passionate about this new product and they want to go sell it and so forth. Right? That's what a company's all about. So there's human context about that business, and you want to be able to take all that human knowledge and be able to codify that. Now, there's obviously knowledge or stuff that you can extract from these LLMs, but you need it to be part of what your business is. So you'll definitely be using these tools to help us kind of create and start, but you don't start from scratch. But what is really important is to actually put the human side and saying, no, this is what we really mean about this stuff, and this is why we should care. And that's kind of where the governance and part comes in.
Yeah, awesome. And like you've played a really important role in fostering the ontology knowledge graph community here in Austin and beyond as well. I know you played a significant part in bringing together several speakers for Data Day Texas. How do we sort of, if we're fairly new to ontology, how do we sort of get involved, deep dive into this space? I know you've got a regular podcast. Are there some, resources or people to follow, some talks that we should all sort of deep dive into?
Yeah, well, so shout out to a lot of the people, like there's a lot of knowledge graph community also that's been there, right? So there's, for example, the Knowledge Graph Conference, and it's happening in New York, right? There's also the Connected Data London Conference, right? That's happened in November. So those are, for example, two places that I think that people should look at. And honestly, what I'd say is this: go look at the talks that have been presented there in the last year, and then go follow all those people. And I think so that's one side. Then there's a lot of foundational books. And I think this is where people will say, well, that knowledge graph stuff they're jumping into it as if it were something new, but there's a lot of history around that. And I think now is a time to actually really understand your history. So, for example, there's the main textbook from my colleague Dean Alamang, which is Semantic Web for the Working Ontologist. That's one that I'd recommend. I have a book too called Designing and Building Enterprise Knowledge Graphs with Aurel Asilla. Or is a guy who created the first version of RDF. Then I always recommend people to go read the two books from Dave McComb. Software Wasteland, which is you understand that version of that application-centric world that we are coming from, and then the follow-up, which is the data-centric revolution. Those are a couple of materials there, and then I'm sure there's a lot of podcasts around there you can go find. There's, I think, a Knowledge Graph podcast by Larry. Anyways, and I'm right now, if you're following, I'm posting each of my lessons learned as one LinkedIn post. So you can watch this, and then I'm sure people will be commenting on that. So then follow the people who are commenting and following and making that discussion there.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for your contribution over the last couple of decades, and really good to see you again, Juan, and hope to see you soon in Australia.
All right, looking forward to it.
Cheers. Thank you.